The job is not being a singer, really. It's just about making people feel good. That's the point. And then when the pandemic happened, my tool was removed from me. That's all I know. I know how to do that. And I know also how to cook for you. I can't do that for thousands of people. I did a world tour that included every country. And so that took a long time. In that time, I realized what my job was. The job was music, and the music had to be really good. Most of the musicians I know, and writers, and especially artists, like lead artists, their focus is just on that. But you have to remember why. If you really go back to that simple question, I'm just doing it because I want people to enjoy it. It doesn't matter where you go. If you bring music with you, or if you bring your light with you, and whatever tool you choose to use, if you do that, people will feel good from your addition to their world. I played in places that didn't speak the language not a tiny bit and was so happy. My friend Rich, he makes podcasts, and he called me up at the beginning of the pandemic. He was like, "So, you have a bit of time on your hands now, don't you, Joss?" I was like, "Yes, I do." And he's like, "Well, let's do a podcast." And he pointed out to me, that's what I do. I try to give people a good feeling. He pointed it out to me, which was nice. And I thought, oh my gosh, great idea. A Cuppa Happy. I think it's been really good for me. It's like helped me be happier. Even if I just continue it for my own selfish needs. I get to talk to therapists like all the time now. I started this before I had Violet, or whilst I was pregnant with my child. So I had different questions than what I have now. It's turned into like quite an important part of my world because of the concept of the show. It can be quite mind-blowing. I think you probably want to care about what you're talking about. I think that really helps. I've done some interviews. I practiced it a lot on the world tour because I went to a charity in every country. And the idea of that was to make them a promotional video. So I would talk to them for like 3 hours. I think that if it was all just singers that I was talking to, it'd be fine because I just talk about the music and, which I've talked about for years. But I don't think that we as singers and musicians, some of us really shouldn't be talking about happiness because some of us are really not in a happy place. And that can make music amazing. We shouldn't be talking about happiness. So I try to interview people that actually study it, which means I don't know them until they're on my podcast. And it's interesting. That's a really important part of what this is. Do my research call with Rich, wasting too much time gibbering away and coming up with questions. You know what the hardest question is to ask? That's the most personal. Are you happy? It gives you a horrible feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not happy. When you have somebody on that studied something particularly, they want you to ask about like the microbiome. They want you to ask. That's why they wrote the book. But maybe they don't want you to ask, are you happy? One day I'm going to ask it, but I got to pick the right person. And it has to be somebody that I think is, because a lot of people aren't. I have a happy scale that I consult. So I created the fun scale. 1, not fun. 10, great. If it's over a 5, I will consider it. Kind of want it at an 8, but I'll settle for a 6 or a 7. I've changed it to the happiness scale because I want something a bit deeper, and it doesn't always have to be a laugh, and we don't always have to be, getting drunk and dancing around till 7 o'clock in the morning, which is fun. Laura Berman, she was one of my favourites. She just had a wonderful way about her, just total confidence, and said some really interesting things. She was great. And she spoke about her kids. And then, a year later, her son took an overdose and died. He wasn't a drug addict. He'd ordered some drugs online just because he was bored in the pandemic. He was 16 and just died. It was the most tragic thing to happen to such a beautiful human being that was like not deserving of that. She's like dedicated her whole life now to like help other grieving mothers that are going through the same thing and warn people about this. I mean, there's all sorts of different bits of advice. There's one lady that comes on from a positive birthing company in this one, which is great for me right now because I'm pregnant. But it was so interesting. If I was a listener, it would be like, oh, I know my friend Ree's going to love this one. If you really do care about people around you, then that will come to your mind, I suppose. So I just think I would like to keep it around.